doing anything with current note, I think. So I'm going to remove current note from state. We don't need blank note on main anymore. We only need it down in note form. Set current note, reset current note, gone. Don't need you. Passing anything down in props like current note anymore? I don't think so. Let's save. Okay, everything didn't break, so I think that's fine. All right, so current note is gone. So how's it working now? Okay, I click on one of these. URL updates, the form updates, everything's good. Let's refresh the page. Let's make sure we can browse straight to a note. We can. Just works. So we can bookmark them, send links, whatever, as long as they can log in as us. So we go back to the same URL, the same note will load. Interesting little difference between the way the morning and afternoon classes went. You know, sometimes I ask you guys, okay, how would you do this? And you tell me, and I just do it. And sometimes I don't prevent problems from happening. I'm just like, that works for now. If we run into a problem later, we'll fix it. So here's a tiny little example of that. That actually was a really hard thing to troubleshoot. Component will mount versus component did mount. So we used component will mount here. We use component did mount in the morning to load from local storage. Where's local storage? Oh, that's an app. That's an app. I'm sorry. That's app.js. In app.js, component will mount. We load the UID from local storage. If this were component did mount, here's what would happen. You go to the URL for a specific note, refresh. It doesn't load. So what's happening, and if you watch very carefully, you can kind of see that the URL flashes. But it's a hard thing to track down, but it's a really good troubleshooting exercise. So I think it's worth pointing out how you would even find that out if you had a problem like that. So it just looks like it's not doing the right thing. You can click around to these, but if you refresh, it just goes back to /notes. So in troubleshooting, first you might think, well, okay, somehow it's hitting sign in and doing the redirect, or maybe because that ID is there, it's not matching this /notes, even though we learned it should, and it's instead hitting the default route, which then redirects to /notes without the ID in it. So we still end up on the right component, but it takes that out of the URL, and I don't reload that component. So you might think that. So just take this route out of here and see if it still happens. Okay, go to specific note, refresh. Still happens. That wasn't the problem. So if I could slow it down, you'll see what's happening is, in fact, when you refresh the page, it is very briefly redirecting back to sign in and then right back to notes. So since we're using component did mount, that doesn't run until after it has rendered, right? So the order in which these methods run is component will mount, render, component did mount. So it's already run render once by the time it does this. First time it runs render, okay, /notes. Even though it's /notes / something, that matches this route. So I'm going to check, are we signed in? We haven't loaded the UID from local storage yet, because with component did mount, it doesn't happen until after it runs render once. So it's going to say, no, we're not. Redirect to sign in. Almost instantly, it runs component did mount, loads the UID from local storage, runs render again, says, okay, I'm on the sign in page, but I'm signed in, so I should redirect to /notes. And then it works. So just a little tiny important difference between component did mount and component will mount in that case. If you want to make sure it runs before it ever draws the page the first time, use component will mount. The only reason you need to do component did mount instead is if for some reason you need it to have already rendered. If you're doing something with something that's already on the DOM, which we don't do very often anymore. So we never did this in this class, so why is there even a change? Current note. Oh, yeah, I blanked that out. Right. So remove unused current note from state. So because we kind of did it the way we should have all along, we didn't actually get to troubleshoot that, but I wanted to kind of walk you through those steps because it was kind of a really good example of how you troubleshoot something that's a little baffling. Questions about it?